best caucuses ever to be in Oklahoma, the Platform Caucus. Give it up for Chuck and Strohm.
Hi everyone, I'm Sean Roberts, representative of District 36. It's North Tulsa County, so I have Sperry, Owasso, parts of Owasso, all of Skiatook, and Collinsville. And then I actually live in Osage County. I have a big chunk of Osage County. But as far as land mass, I have the most land mass in Tulsa County of any rep.
So good evening. Really, it's an honor to be with everyone tonight, and thank you for the invite, David, and everyone that's here. Sean Roberts and I sit basically the desks next to each other, and as is often the case, sometimes proximity is the best and the worst of things that could ever happen. And if you've ever been to the state capitol, it's really interesting because as you're facing the speaker, on the left are the Democrats. So you've got the left of the left. If you go to the far right side against the right wall, you have the right of the right. Not sure if it was planned out that way, but that's just the way it is. So this has been a really interesting session. It started out, really the idea of the Platform Caucus started out with, maybe a little bit of frustration, but just a little bit of frustration. It wasn't financial initially. Really it was frustration over the idea that good legislation was getting bottlenecked in committees. And I'm not, anybody who knows me knows I'm not an advocate that all legislation should be heard, because there's a lot of really bad legislation out there. But when you've gone to a committee chair and he's told you, here's what you need to do to get your legislation heard, and then you go talk to the floor leader and you convey that, and then that committee chair actually lies and hog-ties your bill, and you realize that really it's an intentional effort to kill good legislation, that's when really you start getting good people pretty frustrated. And so Sean had some of that happen. I had some of it. Frankly, everybody has that happen to them, guys. This is nothing unusual, but there were some really key pieces of legislation that needed to move forward, and they didn't. And there were very, very intentional manipulative games that happened. And again, it happens every session, okay? It's not this particular leadership team that did this. This is business as usual in the political world. So, hey, Dave, we'll grab that.
Yeah.
So really what happened is Sean leans back to me and he's like, I can't believe it. And we talked, and then I leaned forward and shared it. You know, hey, I can't believe this. And over the course of, let's face it, you're talking beginning of February, through March, and George fought. He's kind of one of us, and we're all in the back right-hand corner, and we're talking because this has been happening year after year after year. And we realized something. And it was an epiphany, and everybody talks, right? We all talk, we're disgruntled, we're frustrated. But we realize nothing's ever going to change if somebody doesn't take a step forward. So Sean leans back and talks to me and he says, I think we need to do something. And there was a day, and it was a beautiful thing. Sean held out on a vote, and it was amazing because they needed his vote. And it wasn't that the bill was bad. The bill was actually a good bill, but they needed Sean's vote, and he voted red. Or maybe withheld, it doesn't matter. But eventually they had to come over and talk to Sean. Right? Well, basically had some very key people come over and talk to Sean. And not in a negative way, not in a threat, but in a, hey, can you vote for this? You know, then you start having conversations, and it was interesting. And we realized something that day, and I watched all this unfold, and I realized that through strength in numbers, we have the ability to have a very positive conservative influence on our state. And so early April, really Sean and I sat down and we talked about what is this want to look like? What kind of caucus should this be? What kind of core values, core principles should this thing be based upon? And we kept coming back to the fact that it shouldn't be based on the whims of Sean and Chuck. It shouldn't be based on legislative opinion or anybody else's opinion. It needs to be based upon something that doesn't change, or that doesn't change very often. And I think it was Sean that talked about, you know, we've got this Oklahoma platform, and floated, and we talked about the Oklahoma platform, and we realized that that was a key moment, because instead of us developing something that was based upon us, upon our opinions, we stuck a stake in the ground. And that stake in the ground is something that hundreds, if not thousands of hours have been invested in. And that's the Oklahoma GOP platform, very much like the national platform. And from that moment on, we sat down, we talked about what does this need to look like. You guys have basically a statement of purpose as to what does this thing need to look like. This is an early draft. We've got a lot of work to do, but that's kind of how we got from point A to point B. So maybe I don't know, Sean, why don't you kind of take it from here and share a little bit.
We'll trade back and forth. But so as we started forming this group, we made it core, and I'm not going to mention any of the core here because it's, you know, until we go public with, if they don't want to go public, that's fine, it's up to them. And then we said, okay, start identifying people who have shown that they follow the platform most of the time. I'm not going to say. So there's a large group of us. And once we got together and started talking, and we met together, it was almost like a weight lifted off a lot of their shoulders. They thought they were the only person in the chamber who was actually a Republican following the platform, or doing what they said they were going to do when they were in for office. So it was really, you know, God's will for us to kind of come together to give each other support. I mean, there's a lot of things that we said are listed in that paper, but just supporting each other, going, okay, there's enough of us. There's ballpark 15 to 20, depending on the issue. No one's going to be 100%. So, and we understood that. But for the most part, towards the end even, we started making a difference on what policy could be passed or not passed. You saw a lot of bills go down. And ironically, it wasn't just our group. It was Democrats who want to be obstructionists, but we also communicate with them. I knew where they were going to be in a lot of votes. So, but going off the platform, what we said we were going to run on, what we believe in, we tried to start pushing the agenda that direction. So we would meet with the speaker. We made sure he knew about everything we were doing all along. So that way it wasn't looking like we were going after the speaker, we were trying to undermine leadership. Everything we did was trying to support leadership in what they do, but based on Republican values.
Right.
Yeah, jump in.
Yeah, I think that's a key factor that we really need to emphasize. I'm a chain of command kind of guy, and it was incredibly crucial that whatever we do, our goal was not to undermine authority. Our goal was to support those that were duly elected to lead the caucus, but to help them feel comfortable standing with core Republican principles. And so that's a very key thing, because as this whole thing started to play out, we were called obstructionists. You just really can't imagine the things that were said to us, both on the House floor, as well as through the process, as well as under people's breath and everything. That's important because, again, the very first thing we did after Sean and I met, we decided we were going to move forward with this, I met with the speaker. And I shared what we were going to be doing, and that was, again, early April. And so no surprises there. And again, as we proposed budget ideas, budget proposals, we worked with OCPA closely. There was a big group of us that worked with them. Had about $1.3 billion of savings that could have been implemented. Some of that was, the vast majority of it wasn't. So, Tom?
No, I just want, isn't it true that it was the caucus chair that first floated this idea last year? Or is that
As far as the platform caucus?
some people getting together right after the last week of last year.
I don't recall that. Actually, I don't have any knowledge of that.
Okay.
But so really it was really organic.
It was this year.
It was really in March and early April. It was really, guys, it was just an organic thing that happened.
Can you explain the votes that you made so that you wouldn't be, so that the label obstructionist couldn't stick to you?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Okay. All right, that's important. No, it's because Rhonda and I talked on the phone, and that was a key issue because I had, frankly, a really good friend in the House, and I mean a friend kind of like somebody that you can put your arm around and give a bear hug to kind of friend, and man, he just went after me on multiple occasions. And when I say go after me, I mean he went after me with a vengeance. And it took time, but I explained that we're not being obstructionists. What we're doing is standing for the very ideas and promises that you all made when you ran for office. And that point was really driven home when you go out to, frankly, the vast majority of the legislators' websites, and they say, I'm going to vote for this and support this and stand against this. And then you're right. Thank you, Don. They get right up to the legislature, and suddenly, all those promises, all those standards are gone. Because it's really, really unpopular to stand for Republican principles. It's a whole lot easier to just go along to get along. And so that's one of the keys. So Ron, we had a key day where the folks we would be called obstructionists, and never did we go along to get along. We always made key tactical decisions. There were key times where we realized that a certain decision would have driven us into special session. And again, the opinions vary, they're across the board, but there are certain things that are okay to drive us into special session, some things that aren't. And I will say that going into special session it's going to mean more tax increases. Shelley, you're right. We don't balance this budget by laying more taxes on the families of Oklahomans. Because every dollar that government takes in, you hear the term revenue-raising measures. Guys, there are no revenue-raising measures. There's reaching into all of your pockets and taking money out of your pockets to fund inefficiently operated agencies in government. So we had to be very tactical in terms of what we wanted to do and what we wanted to stand against, and then what we wanted to support. So there are things that sometimes you scratch your head and say, hey, why did Strohm do this or do that?
Why did you vote to suspend the rules to allow for another vote? And that was one of the.
That was one of the things that you'd asked me about,
right.
And that's exactly why, because that not suspending the rules would have pushed us, had a very strong chance of pushing us into special session, There are two people that win in special session. One is Scott Inman, as he's running for governor, and it doesn't matter what anybody says. Please trust when I say that if we go to special session and Scott Inman, who's on the radio and TV every day, that's a win for him, for his governor's race. But number two, it also means that Governor Fallon is going to push for more tax increases. And I guarantee it, because that was her agenda from the beginning. And listen, I love the governor, but I don't agree with her policies at all when we start talking about, $1.8 billion of tax increases or whatever it was that she proposed. So, right from Sean, you can have the mic back.
Okay, thank you. So, one thing is the budget move forward, and this is part of the yearly wrap. As a budget move forward, it happens every year. I've been in 7 years, going to my 8th year. Since 2010, every speaker's a little different, but they all play the same game. They put you towards the end of the session, so you're boxed in the corner. You have no choice. It's either we have to do this or we don't balance the budget. That's why we're here. So they kept pushing us, and that's why they ended up with all those tax increases or fees. That's really a tax increase. As the questions I asked, let's talk about the cigarette fee.
The cessation?
Cessation
program?
Right.
Yes, let's talk about that.
So there's right and wrong. It's clearly wrong and unconstitutional.
Correct.
The reason why is because, let's say you have a fee for license plates, and they're going to make a nominal, what was the term they use, nominal excess that they can put in the general revenue. So if it's something minor, basically, it's okay if it's going to get a little extra money. So I asked the questions, how much does that cost? How much does smoking cessation cost? How much does it cost? $1 million. That's the price tag. $1 million. You know how much we're going to raise with that fee? Over $200 million. Clearly unconstitutional. So there's right and wrong, and there were many other things that were going on at the end of the session that were like that. And pins in the corner. So I'm going to back up now and go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the creation of the Platform Caucus. As Chuck and I are sitting over there, and by the way, I sit further to the right than him on the wall. But anyway, at the creation of it, when we were sitting there talking, I kept telling Chuck, I said, look over there. We had the floor leader going over to the Democrats to get them to cooperate and to vote a certain way on bills or procedure, whatever it may be they needed. They were making deals. They were hearing their bills. Whether it's, what was one of them, a good one? Alcohol and movie theaters. That was one. So we were hearing bills like that for the Democrats, and they're killing bills on our side that has to do with OEA and limiting teacher unions. Or I had a bill that would have said you can't spend taxpayer dollars to promote gun control. That was one that they killed. So David had one killed. So it's just one of those things where we look at into the future. Maybe if we have enough numbers, they're going to need us for things. Maybe we can have discussions like they're having with the Democrats just to hear conservative issues. So that's part of the frustration that we had as far as moving the conservative agenda, following the platform. And it is amazing. I actually had one constituent after session say, Sean, you don't have to be so far to the right. And I thought, I follow the platform. Is that too far to the right? So, I mean, most of us are up there. We're going to be supportive of each other, give encouragement, and continue to look forward to the future of doing this. Next year, we talked about actually bringing the Senate into it and grading bills, really looking into the details, nuts and bolts of what a bill does, and sharing that information with their counterparts in the Senate. Because that's one thing that leadership does do occasionally. They'll play the Senate versus the House, right? Especially in the budget. They'll say, well, the Senate will pass that, so we can't even run it. So that gets played a lot. So
I want to say thank you, because I see this as much working in much the same way as the Freedom Caucus in Washington, D.C. And I think it's very much needed, and I think it's a great strategical maneuver to be able to do the things that we that elect you send you to Oklahoma City to do. And those of us that are involved in the party and have worked on the platform and believe in the platform, we thank you for standing up, for finally having somebody people that stand up for the platform and don't just go along to get along. So let me say thank you and how much you know. And I have one other thing. You know me, I'm always never at a loss for words. What can we do to help you?
We need more Republicans. So.
You're Republicans?
I won't say that, but yeah. No, one thing that I did notice with this freshman class, and I'm not gonna name any of the names. I won't name any names, but one thing I did notice is that even behind the scenes, when they're talking about, and we're caucusing, or wherever it may be, the discussions that come forth, I felt like I was sitting in the wrong room. I thought, I'm with the Democrat caucus at this point, because this is the kind of stuff they are pushing. You don't push to raise revenue, and we need to step up to the plate and man up and things like that. It just, we never really, the whole focus most of the time, especially from certain members who really wanted to push revenue raising measures, never wanted to examine, okay, what if we made these cuts over here, or what if we, looked at this agency, or how can we make this agency more efficient? That was never at the forefront.
How about let's do performance audits on all the agencies that we provide funding for?
Yeah, that was, David, let me touch on that.
Yeah.
No. So that was one of the bills. I actually had a couple of bills that, one was protecting our adoption and foster placement agencies, and that was just and I worked with an outside group, and it was a great bill, and everybody loved it, and yet it was hung up in committee. But what you just talked about, I had a bill to allow the state auditor, whoever that may be, to do performance audits on our number one appropriated agency,
Education.
which is Common Ed. And so, to the folks who want to fund education, I guess the question I would ask is how much is enough? And so I'd encourage you to dig into the numbers, because that's, when you look at what's being appropriated, not just what's being appropriated, but what's coming in through non-appropriated avenues, it's truly astounding how much money is going into education. So I had a bill to allow the state auditor to actually start doing performance audits on randomly chosen school districts. So basically the idea was that the auditor could select like a handful of districts, do performance audits, and then based on that data, start to build a model as to how to do performance audits going forward. And again, the idea is let's look at it, let's not just throw a whole bunch of money at audits, but let's actually be tactical and strategic about it. So I like that word though, strategical, because I love tactical and strategic. That's a great contraction. So, but David, yeah.
Yeah, just some nuts and bolts questions on how you're organizing. It appears to me you have some structure for within the House. Are you guys just now focusing as a House caucus?
Yeah, so right now, in order to, because we're in the very early stages, and really, guys, one of the key reasons that I just didn't have peace about.
You can announce it.
Yeah, taking a step forward to the Senate. I think most people here know it.
Oh.
But I, from almost the day I announced to run for the Newberry seat in the Senate, I just didn't have peace. And I kept telling my wife every day, man, I want peace. And at some point, I know that that's the Holy Spirit speaking to me and saying that seat is for someone else. And so that wasn't the step that he wanted me to take a step forward in. And so we made a decision last night that wasn't the direction we needed to take. And I got to tell you, a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. But that's number one. Number two is it allows the idea of the Platform Caucus to really have another year of fine-tuning, of growth and development. I agree that we need to build a bridge with the Senate. I think that's crucial. I think that's very, very tactical. the big question is what does that look like, number one, and then number two is how do we, what is this going to look like going forward? And so we wanted to be very limited in terms of how quickly it grows, because things that grow too quickly have a tendency to lose their original intent and purpose.
Do you have the official sanctioning by leadership? They recognize it, like the Native American Caucus or the Black Women's Caucus or whatever?
Yeah, just so everybody knows, you don't need that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know you don't, but I'm just wondering, are you giving that dignity that you give to other persons?
I will, we haven't sought that. I talked to the speaker right from the beginning, and I very humbly just said, this is what we feel like we're supposed to do as conservatives.
You don't need their permission.
Well, yeah, we did get acknowledged in the press
If you
release.
become a force, they will notice you.
Well, trust me, guys, they've noticed us. They have absolutely noticed us, which is why we've had so many arrows shot at us. That's number one, but really number two is this, and it's really a beautiful thing, is what Sean touched on it. You've got a whole bunch of people, all three of you who are offering to step out of your world and step into public service. You're doing it for the right reasons. You have life experience, you have a desire to give and to contribute back to our state and your community. At least I hope so. And I would say that everybody that's up there has that same desire. And the problem is you get up there and you realize that there's this machine that's moving. It's like a train. And you either get on or you get left behind. And I've never been afraid to be left behind, so I never got on the train, and I'm okay with that. Guys like Sean, we're okay. The problem is that you got a bunch of people that went up there. They are independent thinkers. They love their communities, and they feel alone. I mean, they really do. They feel isolated. And we didn't realize this until the caucus was formed, and we started making invitations. It's not an open caucus. You're invited to be a part of this, which is really one of the things that aggravated. And so, and again, because we want the right character, we want the right heart and right spirit people that are going to follow a conservative idea. But the beautiful thing is as people came on board, we didn't say it, they said it. They're like, man, I felt isolated. I thought I was a one-termer. I was going to come up here and they don't know which way to push their red or green button because they've got no support network, and this has created a support network. I'll tell you, one of the greatest guys that we have up there in the House is Jason Murphy. Jason is absolutely brilliant. Brilliant beyond anything. Whether you agree with his policy decisions or not, that man is absolutely brilliant. And he can explain the whys better than anybody that I've ever met. And he's turning out. And so my heart was, Jason, we need you to share everything that you know. And so he's been doing that. And he's been sharing with a whole bunch of people he's been writing articles about why certain things are the way they are. And if you haven't read his stuff, I encourage you to. He's amazing. But Jason never debates. He just doesn't debate. And because he felt the support of the Platform Caucus, I gotta tell you, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. As a legislator, when you see the bill was just terrible. It was just not a good bill. It needed to fail. But And he got up there, and Jason debated, and he eloquently just broke that whole thing down into bite-sized morsels, and that thing failed like it was incredible. It was beautiful, because we realized that, it's a vending machine bill, and you realize that really there's a bunch of really good conservative folks that are up there, but they're independent. The machine has isolated each person, And I think the biggest mistake was to just see us all together. Because you got, you did, it was a mistake. You got enough critical mass where we could talk. George?
Do any of the platform caucus, I know is not yet, the membership is not public, that's fine. Because your enemies will know you more clearly if you're public. But are any of the ones you would identify as in your platform caucus a committee chairman?
I am. I mean, since I'm on the press releases, I'm not scared to go out there and say I'm part of it. And he's telling me I started it, so.
Could I ask a follow-up? I posted a picture, and you two were on there in Sooner Politics, of 24 legislators who voted against the tobacco cessation fee / tax, and the car excise / site tax fee, sales tax, okay. Just those two, and there were just 24 Republicans. I'm sure you've seen it. You're gonna act like you haven't, but yeah, I know you have. In both Senate and in that. That would probably give us a pretty good idea.
Okay, so, close.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an 80-20
Yeah.
that we have, so we want you to be with us 80% of the time.
Yeah, so there may be other people not in that group of 24.
Right, because there's some people who aren't. Because as we discovered, and I'm not gonna name any names, but as we discovered through the process.
I so wish y'all would name names.
Yeah!
Sharks one.
Sorry, guys, I'm on the platform caucus.
No, but there's some that are fiscal conservatives and some that are social, and they're only social.
Mhm.
But they're, but Chuck and I talked about this. You said you would rather be social conservatives because we can teach them the financial side.
Yeah.
Easier than we go the other way. So right now there are probably some that voted the other way that are in our group that we'll have to educate a little bit.
Yeah, guys, really in the end, it comes down to what do we believe our core values are. And for me, it's the Word of God. And so I would rather have someone whose belief system is founded, their social belief system is founded on the Word. Because you can work with that and you can educate through the financial, the fiscal side of things. But someone who has abandoned Christ, who's really living a non-biblical life, they might be great fiscal conservatives, but it's very difficult it's a step that's very difficult to make. The step this way is fairly easy if they're based on the Word of God, to just explain some financial, some fiscal ideas. And so that's the reason why I personally would rather someone be a social conservative, because we've got people that are one or the other that are in common. Yeah, Amanda?
First off, thank you very much for coalescing around the platform. And David Van Rittingham on the call to ask the question, did they get permission?
I think he was being a little facetious.
Well, I didn't ask permission. I said, have they been officially recognized?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if any of the
No, you don't
caucuses
need to.
have been, I'm not sure how that works.
I'm not done.
Yeah.
I'm
defending myself.
Anyway, so it just my inside instinct was you don't need no stinking permission to go do the very thing where Republicans, they campaign on platform. How outrageous that anybody is objecting to having a platform caucus when they got elected on that train. So it's the height of hypocrisy to say, oh, we're worried now with the platform caucus, because that's an admission, isn't it, that I'm not actually following it.
That's right.
Given that it's a flawed platform. So I appreciate your principled stand on the issues. Where do you stand on it? I think the reason Jason Murphy can debate so well and so eloquently is because he understands the principles of the government.
Yeah.
Principles don't change. They're based on truth and they're proven over time. So you can't be pro-life and not understand the principles of government, and you will lack the competitive edge that you need in order to dismantle your opponent's arguments.
Right.
So that's what Jason's learned. And I do hope, I already know you're not gonna have Urban again on your platform committee.
Actually, he was the new leader.
Most of my child was not to be. Urban,
Yeah.
thank you.
Actually, thank you, man, I appreciate that.
It is.
The idea of a platform caucus really is crazy talk to a lot of people. It really is.
Not yet.
Just the House.
No, it's just the House,
Yeah,
but
right-
they're
right
wanting to
now,
cross
just-
over into the Senate as well.
Can I ask a question? It might be a little bit off, but maybe you two can do this. I'm sure you mentioned the OCPA in the last magazine, and then an email thing from OCPA came out about China having courses at least OU, maybe other universities, that OU, nobody else has any say-so in, they can do what they want. That needs to stop. And you all, it says in there, the OCPA, not me, that you all can stop it. So you need to do something this next year.
Yeah, there's actually an interesting way of getting our arms around higher ed. There are two approaches. Of course, one is
Wrong
one is constitutional, and one is to actually defund the appropriated portion. But with the idea of we will fund you if you do or don't do certain things. I mean, the federal government does it all the time, and so that's under our current constitutional mandate, that's probably the best way to deal with higher ed. So, but yes, I agree. The things that go on in higher ed there are a whole bunch of things. Frankly, lack of visibility is a black box that we pour money into, and we don't have accountability. And frankly, guys, we don't really have accountability with our Common Ed, with K through 12. It's just so everybody knows, there are audits that are done every year in Common Ed. The problem is that the district chooses the auditor, and the district has a relationship with the auditor, right?
The tiny audit firms that are dependent on the school district for their existence.
What George said. And George, go ahead. I want you to.
The school districts typically hire, I can't say this for every school district, but the school districts, even like Tulsa Public Schools, with a budget next year of $671 million, they hire tiny audit firms that existence depend on the school district. So put yourself in the auditor's shoes. Are you going to rock the boat, baby? Yeah. No, you're not. Right. So if you
George, if I didn't know better, I think you were running for office.
I promise you I'm not.
Can I do a quick follow-up on that? OCPA did put out a budget. I was disappointed because even they're saying, yes, we need to raise taxes here, there, and other. You know, maybe that's something the Platform Caucus says, given the money we currently have, here's how we would put a budget together.
So since we started at the beginning of April or sometime in there, it was really tough to do that.
It is.
Because, I mean, actually, I am working myself as an individual legislator, looking at all the numbers, having charts and graphs going back 20 years, finding out where we dropped. Because I ask the question a lot of times, where's the problem? And they change the subject, go somewhere else. They don't know. They're not looking back to find out how did we end up where we are. So that's one thing I'm working on personally. But as a group, we can sit down and start looking at that. We have members in different committees. Everybody's on a appropriation subcommittee. So as the summer goes on, we're going to have meetings and be looking at the budget. I'm sure it will come up and we'll work on that.
What is the process to select the committee chairman of the House and the Senate that are total rhino turkeys? How does that happen?
He's the committee chairman.
Present company excluded.
So usually it's on seniority, and whoever the speaker is will pitch you as the chairman of a committee. Sometimes it's based on where you were, like Representative Ritz was the chairman of public health, so he was the doctor to stay in public health. I was chairman of county municipal government. I stayed where I was. It's just sometimes they will either move you based on your background or whatever it may be. I'm vice chair of public health also.
I think that the leadership is the exclusive decision maker on who is the committee chairman.
That is the answer.
So
They
if you make-
decide.
If you make the leadership mad, you may not be committee chairman in the next session.
That is correct. But at the same time, I prove on some days they have to have you. So it's a give and take. I've never, since I've been there, seen them pull a committee chair based on whether you voted for something or not.
So we end up with Biggs and Yen because of seniority generally.
Yen has no seniority, Yen has to do with the fact that he's a doctor.
Can I just a little housekeeping that will end up answering that? Let's take about 5 more minutes on this, and then Senator Dom probably will want to weigh in. He's traditionally given us the legislative report and that, but so we'd like him to address some of these questions, from his perspective. And then the Chairman McLean will want to finish it out.
Yeah, any more questions?
Well, the only thing I say is, we want to get involved in whatever way we can. We are your biggest
I will tell you this. So you asked what you could do. Not right now, but next year when we file in April, there's a good chance that Chuck and I and maybe some other members who get identified in this platform caucus become major targets. Just depends on who's going to go after us, and we'll have to see. Am I worried about it? Chuck's,
We got your back.
Yeah, I'm just saying that we need to make sure we protect who we have in place, and then we make gains. That's the key.
But on the other side, we want to get people filing that will identify with you guys.
That's right. And one thing I was going to say is, even whenever I don't know what your surveys look like or what you're doing when you endorse, but one thing I've noticed in the legislature, it's not what they're saying to you when they're running, it's who their friends are. So if their friends are higher ed or their friends are
Chamber.
OEA, Chamber's not even, well, Chamber's not even that bad. I can forgive some people who are in Chamber.
Tulsa?
Well, okay. Okay, so yeah, you got me there. But yeah, that's who their friends are, who they are going to answer to when they get there. That is the key. I've noticed that more than anything else, whatever they're saying. Do you think they're pretty much right? Whoever their friends are at home, who they're gonna pick up the phone for, what emails they're gonna read and say, I'm going with this one superintendent to protect schools because of X, Y, Z. You can't do that. You really have to step out and say, well, the superintendent's wrong this time, or he's wrong every time. I had one superintendent in my district, I had 10 school districts, and he would email me on something, I knew I needed to go the other way. So, it's just simple, he would down.
All right. Yeah, I'll finish up with this, that ask your candidates to take a copy of the platform to read it, and then to take a red and green marker, green and red pen, and just put a red X by what they don't agree with and a green check mark next to what they do agree with. At least that gives them something solid that they've read, that they identify with, so that they know where they're at. Because I'm going to tell you, when you get up there, there is no gray button. There's a green button, there's a red button, and there's nothing in between. And people are going to have to make a choice. And the only way that you know which choice to make is what have you invested into yourself. So that's number one. But number two is just continue to do what you're doing. I mean, continue to stand for what you're doing, and then, but we really need good candidates up there. So that's the bottom line, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Senator Dom, if you come up here, I'd like to, Senator Dom, the former officer in the club here, and has been our perennial legislative, I know, the guy who tells us what we saw, what we didn't see. So anyway, I'd like him to address some of these questions as it pertains to the Senate and on that, and then take just a couple of minutes at a time about what you're working on next. All right.
Well, Chuck, they actually had to replace my red button this year because it got worn out. No, to answer George's question about the specifically, I think you're going to ask it, about the Senate committee chairmen, how that is selected. That is our pro tem who picks who our committee chairmen are. The pro tem is elected by the members of the Senate. Pro tem could be changed at any time, but that's very unlikely. Obviously, if they got elected, they would have to have a consensus of the senators. So most senators would have to feel they're doing a good job to keep them in there, or they'd have to have a large majority of them that feel that they're doing enough of a poor job to remove them. So it's the pro tem of the Senate, elected by the senators, and then he or she gets to appoint all the committee chairs and vice chairs. I am also a committee chairman, been in that position for 3 years. I can tell you they put me in that position because they thought I had too much free time, and they were wanting to fill up my time with extra work because they thought that if I was a committee chairman, I wouldn't have time to read all the bills and find all the stuff that they're trying to sneak through, and I wouldn't have to file all my crazy legislation that complies with the platform. I would do more, moderate stuff instead of being a staunch conservative. So that's the reasons that they put me in there and have kept me in there. I'm also on our leadership team as one of the majority whips. We have 4 whips that is elected by the membership of the Senate as well. So the other senators voted. There was 7 of us running for 4 positions, and I was one of the 4 that was elected this year, and 2 years ago I was elected to that position. The reason I'm in that position again is because they want to try to keep me busy, trying to keep me preoccupied. They realize, kind of like Robert was saying, they need me more than I need them, because if they remove me from my chairmanship position or from my whip position, that just makes me a free agent to have all kinds of time on my hands to do whatever I want. They know I know the rules, and I can start using the rules and implementing the rules if I need to, if they try to do that. So they rely on me more than I need them. And so if you prove yourself, that can be advantageous.
What was the statement you said to Bigman a couple of times? Do you want to repeat that?
You have to remind me which rule.
About, I could be dangerous.
Oh, no, yeah, it wasn't actually Bigman, it was Schultz when he was the floor leader before he was pro tem. I said, you realize I have absolutely nothing to lose, and that makes me a very dangerous individual.
Yes.
Because, I don't care if they can't threaten me to take away my committee chairmanship, because if they do that, okay. It doesn't bother me anyway. Same with if they try to get me to resign or give up my whip position, that just unties my hands and basically says I can do whatever I want. If they try to push me into a corner, they know I'll find my way out. So yeah, I've told them that a few times and warned them about that. I will say during the budget negotiations this year too, I was told that when they were going down the list of all the no votes, they were trying to come up with things like, okay, what can we give this individual that maybe they would support it? And they were talking about all kinds of things like on taxes. Maybe we'll put sunset on it. Maybe that will gain some support. Or just different options, or like maybe do something for someone's district or something that somebody's passionate about. I was told when they got my name, they just had a big empty area. They didn't know what they could give me because there was nothing they could give me to get me to vote for raising taxes and everything. They thought I'd just be an no. So I missed some of the early questions. Anybody have any questions that they want to repeat that they want me to answer from the Senate side? Do you know of any or?
Just if there's any interest in organizing like this in the Senate.
Sure, and we've talked about that, especially Senator Sykes is termed out this next year with these last year. Senator Burkeen is self-termed. He said he would only serve 2 terms, so this will be his last year. Potentially could be my last year up there if a different election goes a certain way. So the 3 of us, which were the 3 that voted no on the $400 million tax increase package deal, the 3 of us have had some conversations about this. Not just the 3 of us, there are other members that did vote yes on some things, but have talked about it. I know Sean and I the other night, after the Big Brothers Big Sisters event, he and I strategized a little bit. He and I worked together on a lot of stuff. He's essentially my counterpart on the House side with the General Government Committee over there. So we're looking at some things of what we can do together, coordinating more efforts and stuff, especially in an election year. We've realized that people are more willing to vote yes on things that they maybe don't like Second Amendment legislation, pro-life legislation, some of those things, because it's an election year and they have to, especially on the Senate side, they can be moderates or liberals for 3 years, and then in an election year, all of a sudden they can find their soul, and all of a sudden I support all that. So we are looking at some of that stuff. If nothing else, we can try and get some votes on the record that if we do get enough to pass it, then we can use that to try and get some things actually all the way through. But yeah, we're working on that. We're strategizing, and we'll talk about about several different things. Somebody mentioned the budget. I think George, you asked, or somebody asked about the budget process or plan. That's something I've joked about, and I'm actually seriously considering it this year potentially, either myself or with others, and maybe getting several people. Sean and I talked about this, about actually filing my own GA, a bill, which is general appropriations, basically my own budget bill. There's nothing that would prohibit any member from doing that. So when Governor Fallon comes out with her tax and spend plan that first week, well, we can have our own plan that we can file too and say, well, here's our bill that we would like to see done with some of this stuff, cutting some of those things. So we are looking at those different options. George?
The most dangerous tax increase I saw coming was 160 new taxes on services. And I don't know how you were able to defeat that. It was defeated, it didn't last. What were a little bit behind the scenes of how you were, I presume you were against it. Okay. How'd you do it?
Truthfully, there weren't the votes for it. Part of it was that Governor Fallon came out and that was her plan. She hasn't ever really communicated to the legislature what her plan is. She just throws stuff up against the wall and says, here's my plan, no specifics. I mean, last year, very end of session, she said, hey, we need to do a teacher pay raise. And we asked her, like, well, how are we going to do that? She's like, oh, I don't know. I'm just throwing that plan out there for you guys to figure it out. Trying to provide you guys some cover. That's not cover. We throw us out. We kind of have that from the press, from the media. She does that stuff all the time, so she did the same thing with the service fees and taxes and all that stuff. Truthfully, just the votes weren't there for it. As one of our whips, just to clarify what I do in my whip position, I do not go to people and tell them this is how you will vote for, you will lose your committee chairmanship or anything like that. I just go to people and I say, how do you intend to vote on this bill? Yes, no, undecided, do you need more information, whatever. And so then we tally the votes and we see if the bill's going to pass or fail. If it's going to fail miserably, we won't even bring it up. If it's close, we'll have a caucus, we'll talk about it and say, hey, what are people's concerns with it? If we change it a little bit, if we tweak it, we put a sunset on it, will that get more people? So we have those discussions if it's close. Like I said, I'm one of 4 whips. Usually we had split up, there's 42 senators, right now 40 Republicans, and so we would each have about 10 that we were responsible for covering. But this last year, they actually just had me with everybody most of the time. They would just give me and say, here, you still talk to everybody, so we have a consistent message and everything. So being one of the whips that did that, seeing those numbers and everything, there just weren't numbers to be able to get that passed. Partially because it was Governor Fallon's plan, and partially just because people knew it would be a bad deal.
Yeah, George, that's a great question. Last year, I would say that there was a whole lot more, and I can't speak to the Senate side, but on the House side, it was scary. Last year, big budget hole, but we actually tried to break it down into bite-sized pieces and deal with it. This year, there was really none of that. It was all just looking at how do we do, quote, revenue-raising measures, i.e. tax increases. But as far as so Nathan's right, we didn't have the votes on the House side either as far as the service tax. But as far as last year, it came scary close. And I gotta tell you, 2 people that really fought that thing behind the scenes, George fought and myself. So you're welcome. Yeah, that was one of the things that I dug my heels in, and George did as well, of course, being in the cleaning business. It's a huge disaster. And so what people don't realize is when you have a service-based business, where are you going to collect the taxes? How are you going to remit them? We've got, 500 some odd taxing districts throughout Oklahoma. The logistics of it it's an absolute nightmare. And you talk to the legislators about it, you talk to frankly, the A and B chairman about it. And they really don't have an understanding because they haven't had a business where they've actually had to collect, where they've sold products across the state and then had to collect and figure out how to remit to the individual counties and municipalities and things. So it's a real mess.
And towards the end of session, because those will all be new taxes, that would have been a 75% vote, unless of course they rebranded it as a fee. Try that maneuver. But yeah, that would have been a cessation fee. That would have been a huge challenge to get that many people through it. Towards the end of session, I will say that, yeah, Governor Fallon had 160 something that she started out with. Towards the end of session, as we were scrambling, trying to find solutions, it did get down to, well, what if we just do 10? And they looked at certain things like fur storage and things that they considered more luxury items, trying to do some of that. Online digital downloads, some of those things is what they were trying to focus on. There was just a package of them, but even that would have passed. Amanda, how are we doing on time?
This is the last
Last
one,
question. All right.
then give us the 30 seconds on what campaign you're working on, and introduce the county chair.
Okay.
All right, on to that point, on Big Kahuna, say tax and services, I think that was a test balloon to see what the reception would be like. And they're going to piecemeal it just like they attempted right now. So legislators need to be aware that package will be taken apart and it'll be incrementally instituted. So you have to be on the alert and say, no, no, no.
Agreed. Yeah. Okay, 30 second. Yes, I'm a candidate.